Nintendo 64. Nintendo is Japan's third most valuable company with a market value of over $85 billion. Nintendo was founded in 1889 and originally sold a card game called Hanafuda. Nintendo continues to manufacture playing cards in Japan. In the early to mid-1900s, Nintendo expanded to other capital ventures such as taxi services, TV networks, and food products, all of which eventually failed. Nintendo's first ventured into video games in the early 1970s with the creation of the color TV game. Nintendo's first video game console was the Nintendo Entertainment System, or NES, released in 1983 and hosted one of the world's best-selling video games ever, Super Mario Bros. The Nintendo 64 was first released June 23, 1996, and was discontinued in 2003. Worldwide, the Nintendo 64 has sold 32.93 million units. The Nintendo 64's best-selling game was Super Mario 64, with 11.62 million copies sold. The number 64 in Nintendo 64 refers to the number of bits in its system, 64. Nintendo had adopted the global branding strategy of assigning the console the same name for all international markets, Nintendo 64. The Nintendo 64 was Nintendo's first console to feature 3D graphics and the first joystick gaming controller. The Nintendo 64 was the last commercial cartridge-based gaming console to be produced.
In regards to products, there are 4 categories: games, accessories, systems, and guides. The top 4 games sold were Super Mario 64, Mario Kart, The Legend of Zelda, and Super Smash Bros. The top 3 accessories sold by Nintendo 64 was the Nintendo 64 memory card, Nintendo 64 controller extension cable, and the Nintendo 64 controller. The original Nintendo 64 systems offered an assortment of colors such as Jungle Green, Watermelon Red, Ice Blue, Pokemon Nintendo, Fire Orange, and Rare Gold. Some guides were sold such as Diddy Kong Racing, Donkey Kong 64, and Banjo-Kazooie. The product life cycle of Nintendo 64 are: in the first stage, market introduction, the Nintendo 64 was originally released in Japan on June 23, 1996, and then later came to North America in September of 1996. In the second stage, which is market growth, it occurred in the 1997 fiscal year with quarterly sales increasing. In the third stage, market maturity, it occurred from 1998 to 2000 for a constant increasing in quarterly sales. The last stage, which is sales decline, occurred in the early 2000s when sales dropped tremendously.
Nintendo 64, for their promotional marketing strategy, used many different commercials and advertisements in order to promote the game console. Nintendo 64 had several catchphrases to market the product when it first became available. 2 of the popular slogans for the first new 3D console were "Get in or get out" and "Change the system." To boost sales during the holiday season, Nintendo and General Mills collaborated on a promotional campaign. The TV ad cost $5 million and was created by Saatchi & Saatchi. The ad encouraged children to buy Fruit by the Foot snacks in order to help them with their Nintendo 64. 90 different tips were offered, with 3 variations of 30 tips each. In a rebranding effort to take away the consumer opinion of the typical gamer persona, Nintendo focused their promotional marketing strategy to specifically target the casual and non-gamer markets, knowing already though the console had been in use of already current gamers. And this is the ad used by Nintendo in collaboration with General Mills.
Come on, dude. Just chill. No, this is what? Look, old boy, you'll play when my turn's over. But you've been playing for 62 years.
Now you can play Nintendo 64 longer than ever. With Fruit by the Foot's new game tips, 90 tips to help you reach new levels and beyond. And 64 game tips from Fruit by the Foot. Your games go on and on and on.
Oh, you're killing me.
Also regarding promotion, the Nintendo 64 saw great amounts of publicity. Time magazine praised the new game console, saying it had the fastest, smoothest game action yet attainable via joystick, and that it had done to video gaming what the 707 did to air travel. Time magazine also named it Machine of the Year in 1996. Nintendo 64 was publicized as the most realistic and compelling three-dimensional experience ever presented by a computer. Nintendo 64 was credited for revitalizing the video game market and said that it would play a major role in introducing children to digital technology. The game console also received recognition from other publishing companies such as the Los Angeles Times and Popular Electronics.
In November of 1995, the Ultra 64, which was the original Nintendo 64 model, was unveiled at the annual Shoshuneke exhibition in Japan, where many video games are released to the general public. It was highly anticipated by people who attended the expedition. After it was released, Nintendo became the second largest corporation in Japan after Tokyo. The logistics of the gaming system include the system being manufactured in warehouses in Japan and distributed to other countries for sale. The Nintendo 64 was discontinued in Japan of April 2002 and in North America in 2003 of November. People would race to the stores when shipments came in order to get the Nintendo 64 for themselves or their families. You could also buy games separately from retail stores. Today, customers can download games through the internet or their Wii, which is a newer product from Nintendo rather than retail stores. Today, you can find the Nintendo 64 and its games and controllers on Amazon and other websites or at garage sales because they aren't sold in stores anymore.
The Nintendo 64 game console falls under the video game industry, which is the second fastest growing industry. In 2009, it started at over $52 billion and has now grown to over $86 billion in 2014. The Nintendo 64 is Nintendo's sixth largest game console, selling over 32 million units worldwide. Nintendo 64 sales are only 5% of Nintendo's overall sales. Like many other gaming companies, Nintendo uses flexible price policy in order to sell their games to more people. By using flexible price policy, Nintendo sells Nintendo 64 and the games to individual companies. The individual company then uses markups and sets their own price depending on how it's selling and many other outside variables. The Nintendo 64 games and consoles are known to have seasonal discounts throughout the year. An example of this would be during the holidays you might see a discount for Nintendo 64 with games in order to be more competitive with other gaming consoles. All Nintendo 64 games were sold between $59.99 to $69.99 in 1998. That would cost between $58 and $99 in 2014. Today you can see most of these games for under $40 and some as cheap as $15. The top games sold were Super Mario at 11.62 million copies, Mario Kart with 9 million copies sold, Super Smash with 5 million sold, and The Legend of Zelda at 7.6 million copies.
You want to see something really cool? Check this out. Whoa! What am I, a monkey? You can zoom in, zoom out, change angles. Go anywhere you want to go, do anything you want to do. Here we go! This place is really sweet. Whoa, I'm out of here!
Change the system.